Welcome to the Ultimate Bloons TD6 strategy series, where I'm going to be showing you strategies for every single tower from the Dart Monkey to the Beast Handler and every single path in between. This will show you how to diversify your setup and get better, along with seeing some stats, tips and tricks, and all of the strategies for every single one of the towers. And although that the series is geared more towards Chimps mode, this will also show you a lot of tips and tricks that apply to the standard game and will allow you to win with a new style.
So let's move on to the Perma-charge today, along with the Tier 3 and the Tier 4, the Turbocharge and the Bionic Boomerang. So let's hop right into it. Starting off with all three of these guys in the path, the Bionic Boomerang is a starter / early game tower, mixes somewhere in between there, and then the Turbocharge is a mid-game burst damage type of tower, and then the Perma-charge finally is going to be a late game damage tower. It's going to be doing a lot of damage in the late game, so it's pretty fun to use. Now let's move on to some of the stats. So here's the stats for the Bionic Boomer. It's a Tier 3. It's actually pretty good. Has good attack speed, pierce, damage, all of that. The Turbocharge is going to be the same, except it gets an ability where it's just going to shoot a super fast amount for the short duration that it's up. And the Perma-charge is also like that, but this Turbocharge idea gets its stats buffed, becomes permanent, and then also I guess gets a super Turbocharge when you hit the ability, which deals a lot of damage. Now let's move on to the Crosspath. So the Crosspath is pretty interesting. You really can go either way. For the Tier 3, if you're getting this just to beat the early game, you could either go 2-3-0 for more pierce or 0-3-2 for more damage. Generally, 0-3-2 is a bit better, but if you really need more pierce, you get 2-3-0, and then honestly, they're kind of more the same. Now for the Tier 4, this is the Crosspath that you want to build for Tier 5. I don't really recommend getting the Tier 4 just to have the Tier 4. It's not really the most consistent tower out there. You're better off using a lot of other things. But when you're using the Tier 4, you're going to get the Crosspath that will resemble what you want for Tier 5. Now for the Tier 5, this is interesting because both the 250 and 052 work fine. Depending on the hero and the support that you're going to get later on, one Crosspath will fit the bill more than others. Now this is because the 250 just has more pierce and the 052 has more damage plus the ability to hit lead. So that is something that you're going to keep in mind. If you want to beat the DDTs directly, you will need 250, but that means you don't need the abilities to beat it. And for maps that the Boomerang would work on this path, it's maps that just have a lot of curves and can overlap. Switching the hands will also give you better angles and curves depending on the map, so even if it doesn't originally really do well, you can try switching the hands out. As you can see here, I did a really bad job switching the hands, but you get the point. And now going on to the support. The 052 you want to support with pierce buffs, and the 250 you want to support with damage buffs. This is because one has damage, the other has pierce, so you need to support it by giving them either damage or pierce buffs depending which one it is. This makes their damage and pierce basically the same at the end of the day. So for example, here's the 250. We're just giving him a bunch of damage debuffs, so he'll be the same. This honestly makes this tower super weird to use in Chimps because you're going to be getting either one Crosspath or the other. It doesn't really matter, but you're going to be kind of getting the same exact result. So now what hero you want to use, you're going to be using the hero that will most reflect what it needs in the late game, whether that's going to be pierce or damage. You can get heroes that will do pierce really well, like Sai, Etienne, Soda. You could even try Striker Jones for the pierce, or you could do damage like Pat Fusty and Azili takes out the ZMGs particularly well. So let's get into our first example. I'm going to be doing the two examples, one with each Crosspath for the Tier 5, and we're also going to be showcasing the Tier 3 in the early game. So that's kind of the two objectives that we're going to show here. Now, when it comes to starting, you can, on a lot of maps, start with a dart and a boomerang. Pretty cool start. We'll save some money. I go for it here, and then I try to get my hero down early, and then I'm going to be pushing on to the boomerang. This time, I'm going to be going for the 052 boomerang, which means I'll need a hero that more deals with Pierce, better than not. So I'm going to go for Etienne. Pretty interesting choice. I won't have to get camo this time, which is pretty cool, I guess. That's something that you'll have to worry about if you're using like any other hero, but the UCAS is pretty good for Pierce. So for the Bionic Boomer early game, it's just really simple. You get the Crosspath and then you get the tier 3. It's a very well-rounded tower, does damage, does Pierce, pretty strong. It's something that I don't really see a lot of use, but it is a good choice out there. It can't deal with camo, obviously. That's something that's a little bit unfortunate. So if you're going to be using this guy, you'd probably want to have, you probably more likely have your hero deal with the camo than if not, because if you have to get another tower to deal with the camo, it might be out of the way. Sometimes I guess a crossbow, if the map is longer, just one crossbow would be enough to deal with the rest, but that wouldn't really be too out of the way much. So if you're under one of those circumstances, it might be really nice trying the Bionic Boomer for an early game. Really cool tower. I'm going to have to get something to get into the round 40, obviously, because it's a cheap tower. It's not going to go totally that far. So now going into the rest of the strategy for the Perma-charge, when it comes to the mid-game, you're going to need something to deal with the mid-game very well. I decided to go for a aircraft carrier. Very cool, very strong, very effective tower. Because of that, I'm going to use the destroyer itself to beat round 40. Thinking ahead and knowing when you can employ your towers in ways that will make it so you don't have to waste like money is very good. That's a good example of doing that. Using my would-to-be mid-game tower to beat round 40 instead of buying something else. So that's really going to help me take out the mid-game a lot. And then I'm going to get the turbocharge on the boomerang, and I'll have that burst damage ability whenever I need it. As I said, it's not consistent at all, and you'll only have that damage up for whenever you have that ability, so you just have to keep that in mind. For round 63 here, I take it out pretty well. I actually forget to use my ability. Actually, I think I hit the wrong one when I was recording this, so it looked like I kind of almost died there, when in reality I just tried to hit the turbocharge ability and it didn't go off because I hit the wrong button. Luckily, that wasn't too much of a big deal. This map has some relative difficulty, but it's not too crazy, so it didn't die there, luckily. But I should be able to go straight into a nice and easy Perma-charge. So now I have the 052 Perma-charge. Now, because this has great damage but not good Pierce, we have to buff the Pierce up. So I'm going to get that primary training. That's going to give me +1 Pierce. This time I'm going to be getting an Alchemist on the 250. I'm not going to get an Alchemist. You could if you have a cash spare, but for the 250, there's better things to get. You'd only be getting +1 damage for some small uptime. Instead of with the Pierce, you'll get +2 Pierce with a stronger stimulant. So for the 250, if you can, you could get an Alchemist in there, but generally it's better to put your money into other things. So keep that in mind. But with the 052, we're going to be getting the stimulant. It's going to give us +2 Pierce, +1 damage. That's not really what we need. We need the Pierce. And then I'm going to be going for a primary expertise, which will give us a good, I believe it is +3 Pierce buff. Somebody could correct me if I'm wrong on that. But we'll also get this flying trebuchet going around, which I guess helps clean up some ceramics and does some damage. So that's cool, I guess. And then after this, I'm going to be getting a Mermonkey. The Mermonkey Abyssal Warrior increases Pierce 2, which is really nice. I thought this would actually like touch the track if I gave it a bunch of the Echo Sense locations, but it only barely does. I wasn't really going for the damage on this. It would have been nice if it could like reach the track and all, but that's alright. At least we got the Pierce buff. That really is what I'm looking for the most. But now the 90s are flying by, and as you can see, with all of the buffs that I'm giving it, it has a lot more Pierce now, and it's just doing a very good amount of damage. It has a single target, it has the Pierce, and now this guy's really like a heavy late game damage tower doing so much damage. I get a Relentless Glue just to fill the gaps. Etienne gets level 20, so we'll have a lot of damage being done, especially to the lower Moab and Ceramic class Bloons, which will cut some Pierce pretty well. And then we can also use that ability to do even more damage. And then I'm going to grab a First Strike to take out the bad. One thing that I noticed, actually somebody asked me this in the comments before, and they were like, why can a tower have a lot of like single target damage, be really good at taking out Moabs, but do nothing too bad. And that's because there's a difference of just being able to do a lot of damage to Moabs and being able to do so much damage on one singular target, which is the bad. Very, very few towers can do that. And even a tower like this can't really do that as well, as it would just decimate the bad. It has good bad damage, but we're still going to need a first strike even on intermediate maps for a lot of these towers. Now let's go into our next example, which is going to be the 250 Crosspath on Dark Castle. So I did mention, I think I mentioned this actually in my other one, I believe it was for Glaive Lord, but I will be taking up these examples up to some easy experts sometime, but I won't be doing true experts just because this series is more looking at like teaching you the basics of the strategy, and when I go on to expert maps, everything like falls apart because there's so much extra stuff, placements and all of that, and that just should be set aside. You should be able to see clearly what the strategy looks like on easier and harder maps. That's why I'm choosing advanced to, no, I mean intermediate to advanced and easy experts. So going into this, I wasn't able to do the boomerang start. I believe it actually is possible, but that involves a whole lot of micro. I just did the dart sub start, got the boomerang, got my hero down early, got a spike factory to clean up some stuff generally, and then I'm going to be going into my bionic boomer. On some easier maps, you probably don't need to get that spike factory, but for Dark Castle, just because it comes down pretty quickly, I'm going to get that. We'll get this bionic boomer a little bit late. As you noticed, I thought Pat would honestly like slap all the leads. On normal maps, he does do that, but I forgot this map is very like thick, so he can't actually even like see some of them. In a black border, I just have to take note of that and make sure to buy an alchemist on round 28. We'll get that guy up later, so that's just something to take note of. Pretty much all of these recordings are actually done on first try, so sometimes I just like slip up with like some odd bizarre mistake that you wouldn't normally expect to see like that. But anyways, moving on, I play a little bit differently this time. There's another option that you can do. If you can actually get turbocharged before round 39. You need to make sure it gets its ability back for 40, and you can press the button as you saw there on round 40 and just shred that Moab up. So that was one option. If you do that, you need to be aware that you have to beat the following rounds like 43 without too much consistent damage. I also do a pretty strange thing. I got my villages up, doing a double discount because I'm going to be needing a primary training and an MIB, so you'll see that. But I do a strange thing, as you see, where I alch buff Pat Fusty. That's going to be giving him more range pierce damage. He's going to slap. He'll do actually a fairly decent amount of damage. It will stun the Bloons better too, but it makes his Moab slap more consistent, which is actually pretty cool. I'm going to be getting an Abyssal Warrior for my mid game. Pretty interesting mid game. And then, as you'll notice, I accidentally upgraded one of those guys to Tidal Chill instead of Echo Sense Location. Pretty funny mistake there. But anyways, after that, I'm going to be getting one more thing for mid game. I still have a lot more money to spend because you want to be aiming to get your Perma-charge before round 80. So I know I can keep spending all the way until around 63, give or take. Right somewhere in round 63, and then if I stop spending there, I could still afford it. So I get my spike mines up, alch buff that. I have 4k going into round 63. That's going to be more than enough, and now I can save up for my perma-charge with all of these guys. You definitely want to make sure you don't underspend, or else you won't have the power to beat through the mid game, but you can't overspend, or else you won't have enough power to beat the mid game. So you're gonna have to find like this nice sweet spot where you can get everything. So spike mine's gonna clean up whatever's gonna come through. Whenever there's some big stuff, I can use my turbocharge ability, and there we go. We got our not our turbocharge, that is the perma-charge before round 80. Again, with 4k to spare, I went into 63 with 4k extra, so you just keep spending right until round 63 starts, and then you'll have a good time. So now, because I have the pierce on this guy, I'm going to need a lot of damage applied. So I'm going to be going for a What is this? It's a super brittle. Super brittle will give it +5 damage on the affected Bloons. Pat Fusty, he's going to be doing a bunch of utility with like slapping the Bloons back, but he will also give +3 damage with the roar, and I'll grab that MIB too so we can hit the DDTs and all. Now basically, because you can use either path, really what it comes down to which path you should use is probably more so what hero you want to use. So if you want to use like Sai, Etienne, somebody like that that kind of just deals with more like Bloons better, then you're probably going to want to go 052. But if you want to use something like Pat Azili, something that deals with the ZOMGs or like higher level Bloons or gives damage buffs, then you're probably going to want to go 250 because they're going to synergize with that hero way better. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's just a super odd tower because you have like this weird choice, 250 or 052. There's not many towers like that. Normally one's just directly better, but we're going pretty well. I grabbed a few mob presses just because some of the ZOMGs are still a little bit of an issue, but when we use this ability with that mob press help, a Sabo to make sure we take out 99, and then a Spike Storm to make sure we take out 100, we should be pretty good. I could have gotten a first strike on 100. That might have been a little bit safer, but with Roar and all, the Spike Storm does do enough, and that takes it out. So that is the Perma-charge. 2 examples of Chimps. The tier 3 is also pretty good in the early game, and it's actually a pretty cool tower. Very nice and consistent.
Thanks for watching. If you want to help out the channel, you can check out these new videos, like and subscribe for more content, support the channel by becoming a member, and joining the Discord to chat with the community. Bye!